The Sadness is a 2021 Taiwanese horror film written and directed by Jabbaz. The film follows Berent Zhu as Jim and his girlfriend Kat, played by Regina Lee. As the two go about their day, a virus sweeps through Taipei, Taiwan, that is causing people to become sadistic maniacs. Can the two manage to not only link up, but also survive as the numbers of infected increase by the second? So before thrusting into this film, I think we should address the origins. For those that haven't realized it, this film acquired major attention for the fact it's being lauded as the closest thing to a live-action crossed movie, which adds up, as the director has stated, the comics were an inspiration for the film. Crossed is a comic book series that's first 10 issues were written by Garth Ennis and drawn by Jason Burrows, starting publication back in 2008. It has, with Garth's blessing, had various tales spun by several different authors, including Alan Moore. You may also recognize Garth by his other works, notably The Boys and Preacher, both of which have been adapted into TV shows. The best way to describe the universe of Crossed is basically this.
In his prison, booty. Booty was more important than food. Booty. A man's butt. It was more, I'm serious. It was more booty, having some booty was more important than drinking water, man. I like booty.
Yeah, that basically sums it up. Well, if you didn't like that, stay away, because the comics in this movie have it all and more. Our film opens, and I'm immediately reminded of Resident Evil Outbreak, but without that chilling theme. Right off the bat, we see our leading duo learning that Jim remembers to wake up before Kat's alarm clock, but he can't remember to not schedule a photo shoot on vacation days. But that isn't enough foreshadowing, so bring out the neighbor, Ralph Chu, who is big on gardening, dismissing government warnings, and actually being the spokesperson for a popular supermarket chain in Taiwan. Driving Kat to work, it becomes clear that all is not well, as on the way there, the duo spot police apprehending a crazed murderer. However, after dropping her off and heading back, no one is there anymore. What follows is a series of events highly similar to the opening of Cross. In Cross, it's a diner full of people, stranger waltzes in, acting bizarre, then all hell breaks loose. In the film, Jim goes in for coffee at what I believe is a cafe, and then Granny shows up. Not that one. She gets the attention of the room rather quickly, getting this father to ask if she's alright. Granny reenacts a mommy bird spitting some food on the father and pulling a Rorschach on the cashier. She then comes on to Jim, but Jim here ain't no gilf lover, and backpedals as the father has it up to here with his son. Also, Jim never should walk old women across the street. Also, yes, there was a crazed driver in the comic book, too. Looks like all hell's breaking loose, and Jim is looking like prime confused victim to these psychos. Running away, he manages to escape his pursuers and get back home. Taking a page out of the Aussie's handbook, he downs a beer. Flipping on the television, nothing is on but the emergency broadcasting channel and one of the director's old animations from 2015. Damn it, Rob, you somehow managed to make a man in the star of a Taiwanese spiced crossed adaptation even more confused. Oh no, even the cartoons are getting down with the sickness. I'll give this movie one thing, it did not waste much time in getting to the action. And has it been 2 minutes? Well, let's cut to another action scene. Ooh, that is not how you want to grab a pair of oversized scissors. Well, at least Jim's neighbor can spot an opportunity. Managing to pull off a crit against the neighbor, Jim patches up and texts Kat that he's coming to her. He works his way through the neighborhood hearing the screams, cries, and moans of the infected. He even sees some taking pleasure in torturing a non-infected. Managing to get back to his scooter and starting it, he attracts unwanted attention and flees once more. However, we do see that not only are infected capable of firearm usage, but they bother the aim. But enough of Jim, how's Kat's day going? Well, she's being hit on by an elderly businessman who weirdly reminds me of the Yakuza games. As he's getting touchy, she understandably gets up, offering her seat to Yingru Shen, playing Molly. He doesn't seem too happy, but this surely won't lead to anything horrifying. Speaking of horrifying, how about close quarters train car stabbing? It takes a rare long time for everyone to piece it together that there is a madman going full English on them. Oh, and Riddick was wrong. The gusher was in the neck all along. It's not until we see he's infected that anyone manages to take him down. Due to us not seeing him bleed, spit, or put any bodily fluid on a knife, we can rest assured that it's all uninfected blood everyone is bathed in. But we can freak out over the fact there are more infected on board, and they're biters. Also, not to bring the mood down, but when the original stabber says this, it's a reference to an 8-person stabbing that took place August 2021 in Japan. Anyways, back to the much more enjoyable fact that we get our first ripes of the film, and they do not discriminate. Oh, and Molly, good news! You can cosplay Big Boss now. Bad news... As it all once again goes to hell, they reach the station, and everyone flees. Molly and Kat run opposite everyone else, accidentally leaving her phone behind. We get some creepy tit action, and the businessman, played by Zhuchang Wang, is going to be the nemesis to Kat's Jill Valentine. Only instead of a rocket launcher, he has an umbrella, though him and Nemesis do have the phallic penetration thing in common. Wait, is his name actually Wang?
Who wants some Wang?
The pair managed to just barely escape, no thanks to Kevin, the MRT employee, who is here to establish that he's an asshole and the source of a running gag. After being taunted by the businessman, the three set out for the nearest hospital. Back with Jimbo, we see just how destroyed the city is, and more offbeat areas are showing just how far it has spread. His luck does improve when he happens upon a sickle, or I think some type of sugarcane machete. Oh, and he sees the baseball players using the wrong type of balls in their game. Well, a solid Spartan kick will serve as a good introduction. This prompts the other to break out the Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon, which proves no match for the Neutron style. Wait, wrong Jimbo. Never mind, because Jim has saved the day. Fleeing once more, and with a net of 0 saves so far, we cut over the cat, who is leading by 1 as she arrives at the hospital. Molly is taken away by a nurse. Meanwhile, Kat borrows and shames Kevin, played by Liu Kang Huang, into handing over his phone and signing into line. Also, we get that running gag. The Taiwanese president comes on the TV to give a speech, filling everyone in. TLDR, we have no clue what the fuck is going on, what the hell is causing this, might be that Alvin virus we mentioned a bit throughout the film, etc. Though they do know there are at least 4.5 million infected. The real mind blower comes when the general is overtaken by the infection. This, combined with already high tension, sparks the powder keg of the room. Running gag again. To make matters worse, the businessman is here and he brought along some business partners for this hostile takeover. Kat has the right idea and rushes into a stairwell before the infected rush in. Kevin runs too, but with the crowd, and ultimately hides under a gurney directly across from Molly. The businessman shows, and I just want to take a little moment here for you to consider the possible outcome of this situation. Perhaps you Red Cross, or you have a similar head as mine. I just had this gnawing feeling Rob was going to do something very particular after I saw the initial injury and the fact she survived the train. If you haven't pieced it together yet, let me supplement your imagination with this Halcyon abridged clip.
Oh God! This is horrible.
You ain't finished yet.
So prepared to try up pussy for my huge vampire cock. Now pardon me while I blow this faggot Ginger's brains out. Oh god, no! Oh, his fucking face, man. Fuck. Oh no, that shit is priceless.
Fun fact, they did that scene without rehearsal and went with the first take.
Bullseye!
We then get a less distressing scene as Kat manages to call Jim and the two converse with him saying he's coming for her. Only problem, he's not looking so hot. Then again, maybe being hot and bothered is his problem after all. Speaking of being hot and bothered, Kevin gets a front row seat to the infected blood orgy. I'm not even making that up, this is 4 inches away from being on the hub. Oh, who am I kidding, this already has a vor edit on Rule 34. Some of you people got some issues that need a working. Moving on, Kevin happens across a now infected Molly with a bone saw. The orgy members are back, open to adding 2 more. If Kevin wasn't such a pathetic asshole, I'd feel bad. Though, with what Molly is saying, you can say she's pretty fucked in the head. Infected enter Kat's hiding space, and she runs to the 2nd floor using a gurney railing to lock the door. Oh, remember how I said Wang is her nemesis? Well, he's here too, and smart enough to crawl through the door's gap, solidifying his nemesisness. He tightens the makeshift lock, preventing more infected from coming through. He stalks and taunts his way after her, but gets a cold response when he finds her. Kat then makes the closing deal. All is not well, however, as infected have broken in. Just then, a mysterious hazmat man opens a door and beckons her inside. Once inside, Kat is handcuffed, cleansed, and changed by Dr. Alan Wong, played by Wei Hua Lan. Seems he's locked himself inside his maternity ward due to the door being the strongest in the building. He's been running tests on the infection and suspects Kat is immune due to the fact she hasn't changed despite being in contact with infected body fluids many times. He then goes on about how it's the Alvin virus and the politicians cared more about ratings for elections than actually solving the problem. How the virus targets the limbic system of the brain, connecting the area for aggression and sexual drive. With many buts, he goes on to theorize that this virus effect is causing people to act on their most base desires, all the while being fully aware, hence the tears we have seen infected shedding throughout. He does make one distinction from the crossed comics, that being that he believes infected don't attack each other, for they need their prey to actually suffer. Not sure how true this is, considering the game of Nutcracker earlier, but okay. Anyways, there's a bunch of dead infected babies in the waste bin. Yeah, seems he ran some tests using the maternity ward babies, and now the latest subject is Kat. As he gives her 5 minutes to become infected, Dr. Wong reasons that anything he did to them was a mercy compared to what the infected would do. We have seen them eat children as well as tear them apart. I don't believe any of the comics showed rape, though it could have been implied at one point or another. Anyways, Kat is A-OK, and it's time to get to the chopper that will be landing on the roof for Dr. Wong and what he believes is the only chance for a cure. With a 3D printed gun in hand, they depart, but shortly Kat has to ask a question. Dr. Wong defends himself, scoring a headshot on one and a gut shot on the other. A weapons jam leads to said guts going all over that fresh wound. Clearing the jam, he ends the puker, and the two continue. Oh, hey, it's Jim. Oh no, it's Jim. The doctor ends up on the Wong end of a printed gun as well as the business end of a blade. Kat flees with Jim in pursuit, but is able to lock him behind a gate. She attempts to get through to him, which seems to work for but a moment, until... This just seems to break her. Her reaction is either the infection taking over or a simple mental breakdown from all that's happened to her so far. Either way, she pushes onto the roof where the helicopter is waiting. Ending on the face of Jim, we hear automatic rifle fire off in the distance. Cue a seizure-inducing credit scene I won't dare show you, and we have the sadness. I sadly couldn't find a budget behind the film or its ultimate income. However, I can say that by word of mouth alone and with its connection across, it should manage to rake in a hefty sum. Interestingly, the film was financed with a mixture of traditional cash and crypto. A healthy amount of backing was revenue from the producer's cam girl activity. Filming was done in Taipei, Taiwan, and due to lockdowns during filming, scenes such as the hospital and subway were done on sets, not actual locations. The impressive gore effects were 99% practical. Being handled by IFSFX art maker, the specialist spent 3 months creating heads to be used in the film. Ironically, the shooting of The Sadness would last 28 days. The writer was not originally meant to direct, but ended up doing so. I will say that while he openly draws on the Cross comics, interviews show he may not have read past the 10th volume, because his claims of pushing the genre forward and such were done in later comics. Also, side note, but infected people talking and taunting characters isn't the most new thing, as even the old Vincent Price film, Last Man on Earth, has an undead taunt him by name. Similar to Ju-on the Grudge, The Sadness was called over in Taiwan Ku-bei. Some of you, or maybe just me, may have questioned the podium's words during the announcement. Taiwan calls themselves Republic of China, while China prefers People's Republic of China. The phrase Ilha Formosa is a term dating back to 1542, where Portuguese sailors spotting an uncharted island named it such. The phrase translates to Beautiful Island. The film was originally released in Taiwan January 22, 2021. An international premiere was at the 74th Locarno International Film Festival in Switzerland on 12th of August 2021. Additional screenings were the 25th Fantasia International Film Festival in Montreal, Canada in August 2021, as well as at the Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas, September 2021. Raven Banner Entertainment would acquire the worldwide distribution rights to The Sadness. In 2022, it would be featured on the streaming service Shudder on May 12th. The film had to be submitted 3 times to the FSK by German licensee Cape Light. It finally managed to get a not for anyone under 18 rating for its theatrical release. However, an uncut DVD release has been denied. As of right now, the latest distribution of the film is France, which will see copies 6th of July 2022. Before giving my final thoughts on the quality of the film, we need to once again discuss Crossed. Many of the negatives I had with the initial comics is evident here as well. That is, that the story is interesting and shocking, but ultimately rather shallow. The follow-up comics to First Peer would mend this problem, but never fully overcome it. 3 different authors' tales of Crossed boiled down to who is the monster, or we aren't so different. Basic stuff that has been done, and while that isn't a negative necessarily, running around saying that you've pushed the envelope and improved upon the original certainly doesn't help. The Sadness feels very much like one of those follow-up Crossed tales. Less Crossed plus 100, and more Crossed family values. Again, though, this isn't inherently a negative against the film, as the story it tells is still effective. Also being the sole movie to hold the torch of live-action Crossed manages to gather attention, even if I would argue that films like Crossed have already existed, with only the level of depravity put front and center being used to differentiate it. So yes, if you liked Crossed and want a more faithful adaptation than say something like The Crazies could provide, you will enjoy this film. Not speaking the language, I'm at a bit of a handicap to critique the acting, but from what I could discern it was perfectly fine, and both stories managed to remain interesting. I never felt disappointed switching over to one or the other. I will say that Wang really seemed to have a blast playing his part and was enjoyable, or at least as enjoyable as his character could be. The scenarios shown can feel rather small in scale, with no scenes having more people than the hospital room or the subway. They try to remedy this by using audio off in the distance. However, when Jim is driving through the destroyed city, it can seem rather dead, despite the whole movie covering only a few hours. I believe this is due to budget constraints, and while it is there, many first-time viewers won't notice right away, if at all. The movie being lauded as the most disgusting or brutal film isn't something I 100% agree with. Don't get me wrong, there is enough gore and violence to make a torture porn enthusiast lover smile. But allow me to use the disturbing movie Iceberg. This film would be on there and most likely above water. However, when comparing it to other films such as Salo or more murky films, you start to see that it isn't the most brutal. The most brutal scene is actually the subway bit in my opinion. Yes, the orgy was a thing, but all it served to do was remind me of the Society's ending. Look, you won't miss much by skipping this one, but if you want a well-made horror film to watch, I do suggest. As I've already stated, you Crossed fans would do yourselves good to give it a check. Look, I'm not sponsored by Shudder, but they have a 7-day free trial. Literally just sign up, watch the film, and then terminate your subscription. Oh, and one last thing, the film actually has a few moments of humor sprinkled throughout. Bit sad we don't get a scene where a man tries to protect his family with a circle assault based on a theory he has, only to have that theory disproven immediately, and on the next panel his child is torn apart with him and his wife being raped. The whole time she's chewing him out, getting more angry the more the infection takes over. I'm just saying, the way I read that in my head made the scene rather hilarious.
好呀，你要煮什么？
我在，反正能配9层塔的好不好？
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.